The key card chirped once, polite, efficient, and the screen over the lock flashed red. Access denied. I stood in the corridor of Deck 10 with my hand still raised, fingers wrapped around the plastic card like it was a promise. The ship hummed beneath me, steady and low. Tonight, it felt like a warning. This was our cabin. 102 12-year anniversary. The kind of fresh start trip Derek insisted we needed. I tried again, slower, like the lock had misunderstood me. Chirp, red, access denied. A laugh came from the other side of the door, low and comfortable, like someone was already settled into my bed. My throat tightened. I leaned in, ear to the wood. The laugh stopped. Then a voice slid out, soft as air conditioning. "Give me a minute." Not my voice, not Derek's. Footsteps approached behind me, unhurried, familiar. Derek stopped close enough that I could feel his heat at my back. "Problem?" he asked, voice sweet as a cocktail. I turned. He was smiling, too easy, too wide. The smile he'd been wearing all week whenever I asked why he wanted to hold my passport for safekeeping. "My key isn't working," I said. I kept my tone calm, but my hand shook around the card. Derek glanced at the reader, then back to my face. No surprise, just a quiet, satisfied look that made my stomach drop. He leaned in like he was about to help, but his lips brushed my ear instead. "Relax," he murmured. "You're making a scene." His tone was husband. His words were threat. "Open the door," I said. His eyes flicked down the corridor, checking for witnesses. Then he whispered, low enough that only I could hear, "Imani, you're not on this ship anymore." For a second, my mind refused the sentence. "What?" I breathed. He straightened, charm snapping back into place. "Let's not do this out here." His hand found my elbow, gentle the way you guide someone away from an accident. Except his grip wasn't gentle, it was possession. I stepped away. "Why is my card denying me?" Derek sighed like I was exhausting. "Because you grabbed the wrong one. Here." He pulled a second card from his pocket and held it up like the solution to a simple problem. Same ship logo, same white plastic. I stared at it. "Where did you get that?" "Guest services reissued it," he said smoothly. "Long story, I'll explain." "Then use it," I said. "Open the door." Derek didn't move. "Not right now." A chill threaded through my ribs. I looked back at the reader and noticed something I'd never cared about before. The name line beneath the cabin number. Tonight, it didn't say Carter. It said A. Monroe. My tongue went numb. I blinked hard, like my eyes could fix it. "A. Monroe," I whispered. Derek tilted his head, almost affectionate. "See? You're tired." "No," I said. "That's wrong." "It's a ship," he replied. "They make mistakes." "Someone changed it," I shot back. And the moment I said it, a string of phrases slammed into my brain like headlines. Passenger manifest switched. Identity swap on cruise. Cabin keycard tampering. I'd watched those stories and shaken my head. Cruise ship disappearance cases. A missing wife on vacation. A husband with the perfect sad face. Now the words weren't entertainment. They were a map. All week, things had scraped at me like sand under a ring. Derek hovering when I signed the excursion waivers. Derek insisting he hold both room cards. Derek asking whether the ship's medical center kept incident reports and how long cruise security footage was stored. He'd laughed when I asked why he cared. "I like to know how systems work," he said, like curiosity was harmless. "But I run a business. I know the smell of a plan when it's been rehearsed. I know what a financial fraud spouse looks like when he's standing in front of you, smiling, trying to sell you comfort while moving pieces behind your back." And lately, Derek had been talking about coverage and beneficiaries, about how people do crazy things on vacation, and how lucky we were to have insurance. Insurance scam, missing wife, grieving husband. The corridor felt narrower. The air felt thinner. Derek's eyes, patient, told me he wasn't improvising. "Imani," Derek said, voice dropping lower. Come with me. Where? Somewhere quieter. He nodded down the corridor, so I could stop being seen. I noticed the ceiling cameras then, small domes tucked into corners, shipboard surveillance that looked like safety until it didn't. I couldn't tell if they were watching us, but I could feel them. Derek followed my gaze and chuckled softly. Those cameras? They're for show. My stomach flipped. How do you know that? I talked to someone, he said, casual. My mouth felt thick, heavy. And suddenly, I remembered the champagne Derek insisted I take right before we left the bar. To fresh starts, he'd said, eyes on mine. The sip had been sweet, almost too sweet. A cold thought rose, clear and ugly. Drug drink on cruise. Derek watched me swallow and said quietly, Good. I froze. What did you do? His expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. What do you think I did? A couple stepped out of the elevator at the far end of the hall, laughing, arms linked. They glanced our way and looked away fast, like trouble was contagious. Derek leaned closer and lifted his voice for the hallway. You're not feeling well, he said, gentle in public. Let's get you some water. There it was, the first brick in the story he planned to tell. I lowered my voice. I want my phone, my ID, my passport. Derek smiled wider. Those are safe. With you, I said. He didn't deny it. I forced my breathing steady. Why does the door think I'm someone else? Derek's eyes flicked past me again, checking timing, checking the hall. Then he whispered, so only I could hear. Because if the manifest says you're not you, you can't prove you're missing. My blood went cold. If I went down to guest services, they would pull up the system and see nothing. No Imani Carter, no record, just A. Monroe. And if I made noise, they'd escort me somewhere private, medical, security, a room with no windows. Then Derek could stand on deck and tell the captain, My wife, I can't find her. Cruise ship disappearance without the ocean ever touching my skin. Overhead, the intercom chimed, bright and cheerful. Good evening, guests. Don't miss tonight's captain's soiree. Live music and a special toast. Live music. A toast. While my name was being erased. Derek's hand brushed my shoulder, guiding. Let's go. I stepped away from his touch. No. His smile dropped like a curtain. Imani. I'm not going anywhere with you, I said. You don't have a choice, he replied. And for the first time, his voice sounded like the truth. My heart hammered. I needed one clean move, one thing that might keep me from becoming a file labeled unknown. So I did the only thing that has ever saved me in rooms where men try to rewrite your reality. I named the truth out loud. My husband is trying to erase me, I said, voice steady, carrying just enough. He's tampering with my cabin keycard. He's switching my identity on the passenger manifest. A door down the hall cracked open. A woman peered out, eyes wide. Derek's head snapped toward her, then back to me. His voice turned honey smooth again. Babe, stop. I looked him dead in the eyes and smiled the way he'd been smiling at me all week. Too calm, too wide. And I said quietly, so only he could hear, If you want me to disappear, Derek, you're going to have to do it in the light. For a split second, fear flickered in his eyes. Then he leaned in, lips near my ear, and hissed, You have no idea how this works. I swallowed against the thickness in my throat. Then teach me, I whispered back. He stepped away and raised his voice, performance ready. She's not feeling well, he announced to the hallway, as if the ship itself needed an explanation. And in that moment, I understood. The ocean wasn't the danger. The paperwork was. If you're listening to Twists of Fate, stay right here. Before we go on, tell me in the comments what city you're listening from and what time it is where you are, because in a minute, I'm going to walk into guest services and find out whether my name still exists, or whether I'm already gone. I didn't run. I wanted to. Every nerve in my body screamed to spin on my heel and sprint toward the elevators, toward crowds, toward any place with witnesses and noise. But Derek was built for panic. He fed on it. If I gave him a chase, he'd turn it into a story. My wife is unstable. My wife is confused. My wife is having some kind of episode. So I walked. Slow. Measured. Like my name still belonged to me. Guest services was 2 decks down. Past a corridor that smelled like lemon cleaner and expensive perfume. Past framed photos of smiling couples and sunsets that now looked like ads for lies. Derek stayed at my shoulder, not touching me, but close enough that I could feel his control like a hand around my throat. The champagne sweetness still clung to my tongue, and my eyelids felt heavier than they should. Drugged drink on a cruise. The words pulsed in my head like a bruise. "I'm fine," I said, mostly to myself. "You're not," Derek answered softly. "And you're not going to make this harder than it has to be. Harder than it has to be, like my life was a suitcase he was tired of dragging." The elevator arrived with a cheerful ding. Inside, a middle-aged couple in matching windbreakers smiled at us. Derek's face transformed instantly into concerned husband. His hand hovered near my back without touching. "She overdid it at dinner," he told them lightly. "Anniversary nerves." The woman chuckled sympathetically. "Oh, honey, I've been there." I forced a small smile. The elevator mirrors showed my eyes, too glossy, too wide. Like fear had turned up the brightness. When the doors opened on deck 8, Derek guided me out with his shoulder, subtle as a shove. Guest services sat at the center of the ship like a bank lobby. Bright lights, glossy counters, artificial flowers arranged to look effortless. Passengers stood in line, complaining politely about Wi-Fi and towel animals. A welcome aboard sign glowed above a touchscreen kiosk. Behind the counter, a woman with a crisp bun and a practiced smile said, "Good evening, how can I help you?" I stepped forward. "My cabin keycard is denying me access," I said. "And the name on the reader is wrong." Derek slid in beside me, smooth. "My wife isn't feeling well," he said. "She's a little confused." I turned my head slowly. "I'm not confused," I said, enunciating each word like it was evidence. "Our cabin is 10218. My name is Imani Carter. The reader shows A. Monroe." The representative's smile tightened, but her eyes sharpened with the faintest flicker of concern. She tapped her screen. "One moment, ma'am." Derek's gaze pinned my face. "Imani," he warned under his breath. I kept my eyes on the counter, on the little sign that read, "Please have your C-Pass ready." Ready, like a compliant passenger. The representative frowned. "I'm not seeing an Imani Carter in cabin 10218, she said carefully. My stomach dropped anyway, even though I expected it. Derek exhaled dramatically, like, "See?" The representative continued. "Cabin 10218 is assigned to Ms. Alicia Monroe and Mr. Derek Carter." I heard my own heartbeat in my ears. Alicia A. Monroe. A new name, clean and plausible. A name that could walk off a ship and never be linked back to me. "Who is Alicia Monroe?" I asked. The representative glanced at Derek, then back to me. "Ma'am, according to our system, that's you." Derek's voice stayed gentle. "She's been under a lot of stress," he said, as if he were explaining a difficult child. "Her mother's been sick. She gets these spells." I felt the room tilt. The chandeliers above the atrium shimmered like water. For a second, I pictured the stories I used to half-watch. Cruise ship disappearance. Search underway. Husband pleads for answers. I planted my palms on the counter. "I want to speak to ship security," I said. The representative's eyebrows lifted. "Is there a safety issue?" "Yes," I said. "My identity has been altered on the passenger manifest. My husband has my passport and phone. I need security." Derek's smile went thin. "Imani, stop," he hissed. But the words were almost lost in the ambient music drifting from the atrium bar. The representative hesitated, fingers hovering over her keyboard. Then she nodded once, decisive. "I can contact security, ma'am. Please wait right here. Derek leaned in close enough for his breath to warm my cheek. "You're doing the most," he whispered. "You're going to embarrass yourself." I kept my gaze forward, but my mind slid backward, fast, to where this started. 12 years. That's what we were celebrating. 12 years of building a life that looked stable from the outside, while the inside slowly filled with rules I never agreed to. Derek hadn't always been like this. When we met, he was charm and patience, the kind of man who listened with his whole face. I was building my marketing firm from nothing. Derek said he loved that I didn't need him. Somewhere along the way, that became the problem. In the months leading up to this cruise, he started talking about money like it was a storm cloud. Not our money, mine. He started asking questions that didn't match his casual tone. Who's listed as beneficiary? What happens if something happens to you? Do we have enough coverage? I laughed it off until I noticed he'd begun memorizing passwords the way he'd memorized my face. "Just being responsible," he'd say. Then came the passport. A week before we boarded, Derek insisted we organize travel documents. He laid everything out on the kitchen table like a game. When I reached for mine, he covered it with his hand. "Let me hold these," he said. "You always misplace things." I didn't misplace things, but he said it with a smile that made it sound like an inside joke. On embarkation day, he carried our passports to the terminal, and every time I asked for mine, he said, "In a minute, babe," like I was asking for a snack. At the port, the line moved fast. People laughed, took selfies, waved at the ship like it was a celebrity. A staff member scanned our documents and handed us wristbands. Derek kept his hand on my shoulder the whole time, steering me like a cart. When we stepped onto the ship, it felt like entering a floating city. Music, lights, the scent of warm bread and ocean air. Derek squeezed my waist. "Fresh start," he whispered. I wanted to believe him. I wanted a simple anniversary. I wanted to be the kind of woman who could relax into a vacation without scanning for danger. But even then, I saw the first crack. A security officer stood near the gangway, tall and steady, watching the crowd with eyes that didn't drift. Alert. His badge read Malcolm Reed. He caught my gaze for half a second, just long enough to make me feel seen, and then he looked away, back to his job. Now, standing at guest services with my name erased, I wanted that steady look again more than I wanted air. The representative returned with a handheld radio. She spoke quietly into it, then nodded and glanced at me with a new seriousness. "Security is on the way," she said. "Please remain here." Derek's jaw tightened. For the first time, his mask slipped, and I saw irritation sharp as a blade. "Imani," he said low. "You're tired. Let's go back to the room." "Which room?" I asked, voice calm. "Mine or Alicia Monroe's?" His eyes flashed. Anger, fear, calculation. Then his smile returned like a lock clicking into place. "That's enough," he said softly. And then, from behind me, a new voice cut through the lobby noise. Quiet, controlled, and not impressed. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Reed. Tell me exactly what's going on." I turned and Malcolm Reed stood there in a dark security uniform, his posture straight, his gaze level. Not rushed, not performative. The kind of man who didn't need to raise his voice to take control of a room. For the first time since the red access denied flashed at my door, my lungs filled properly. Behind him, 2 cameras blinked like in different eyes, and the atrium music kept playing, as if nothing mattered here tonight still. I looked at him and said, "My husband has changed my identity on this cruise ship, and I think he drugged my drink, APC." Derek's hand twitched at his side, like he wanted to grab me and couldn't decide whether the cameras were real after all. Officer Reed didn't rush me the way most people do when they hear the word drugged. He didn't widen his eyes for drama. He didn't glance at Derek like he was waiting for a confession to fall out of his mouth. He just did one small thing that made the world feel solid again. He stepped slightly in front of me, not blocking my view, just shifting the angle so that Derek couldn't crowd me. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and even, What's your full name? I'm Imani Carter. Derek let out a breathy laugh. See, that's what she keeps saying. He lifted his hands like a man surrendering to nonsense. Officer, she's stressed. She gets confused when she drinks. I tasted champagne in the back of my throat and wished I could spit it onto the carpet like proof. Officer Reed looked at Derek for half a second, just long enough to acknowledge him, then returned to me. Do you have identification on you right now? No, my passport is with him. I nodded toward Derek. He insisted he'd hold it. Derek's smile stiffened. I didn't insist. She gave it to me. Do you have your phone? He has that too, I said. He said it was safer in his pocket. Officer Reed didn't react like that was normal. He reacted like it was a pattern. All right, he said. We're going to step into a private space. Both of you. Miss Carter, you stay with me. Mr. Carter, you're going to walk on my other side. Derek's jaw flexed. This is ridiculous. Officer Reed's tone didn't change. Sir, you can cooperate or I can call for additional staff. Your choice. There was a pause. One of those little silences where power either shifts or it doesn't. Then Derek's performance returned, smooth and public. Of course, he said. Whatever helps my wife. He said my wife like ownership, like a title he'd earned. Officer Reed led us away from guest services through a side corridor I hadn't noticed before. The ship was built like a maze on purpose. Fun for tourists until you needed to get out of something. The air back here was cooler, smelling faintly of metal and laundry. A crew-only door opened with a scan. Officer Reed's card beeped green. I watched the reader like it was a heartbeat. Inside, a small office sat tucked behind the public shine. 2 desks, a wall of screens, a whiteboard crowded with notes. Medical, lost child, cabin dispute, weather update, a life-sized map of the ship. The security room felt less like a cruise and more like a city at night watching itself. Shipboard surveillance, cruise security footage, all of it lived here. A younger guard at the desk looked up, surprised. Sir? Close the door, Officer Reed said. And get me the supervisor on comms. The guard moved fast. Officer Reed gestured toward a chair beside the wall. Ms. Carter, sit. I did, carefully. My legs felt like they'd been poured full of warm sand. The drug, if it was a drug, hadn't knocked me out. It had just taken the edges off my strength, dulled my timing, made me second-guess my own balance. It was the kind of feeling you could be framed as drunk if someone wanted to frame you as drunk. Derek stayed standing, arms folded, his face calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that says, I planned for this. Officer Reed pulled a notepad from a drawer. Start from the beginning, he said to me. Tell me what happened tonight. I took a breath. We're here for our anniversary. We had dinner. After dinner, Derek insisted I drink champagne. Then we went to our cabin, 102-8, and my key card denied me. The lock showed the name A. Monroe, not mine. Then Derek told me I wasn't on this ship anymore. Officer Reed's pen moved steadily. And your passport and phone are with him. Yes, Derek scoffed. Officer, come on. We're on vacation. Couples hold each other's things. Do you have the passport on you, sir? Officer Reed asked, still writing. Derek hesitated, just a flicker, then reached into his inside jacket pocket and produced a Navy booklet. Of course. Officer Reed held out his hand. May I see it? Derek's eyes narrowed. Why? It's hers. She can look at it. She said she doesn't have it, Officer Reed replied. I need to confirm identity. Derek's smile sharpened. Confirm? Like she's a criminal? Officer Reed didn't take the bait. Hand it to me. Derek kept holding it. In the corner, one of the surveillance screens showed the atrium bar. Laughter, a couple dancing, a pianist's hands moving over keys. The ship kept celebrating while my life sat in a man's pocket. Officer Reed's voice stayed calm. Sir, now! Derek's eyes slid to the cameras, then back. He dropped the passport into Officer Reed's hand with a little extra force, like making it a point. Officer Reed opened it and scanned the photo. He looked at me, looked at the passport again. "This is not you," he said. My heart stopped for a beat. Derek laughed, quick and sharp. "Because she grabbed the wrong one earlier," he said. "We mixed them up." Officer Reed flipped the booklet toward me. The photo was a woman with straight hair and pale eyes. Not me. The name, Alicia Monroe. It felt like someone had punched the floor out from under my chair. "That's not my passport," I whispered. Officer Reed's gaze turned colder. "Do you have another passport, sir?" Derek's expression tightened. "What is this?" he demanded. "This is absurd." "Answer the question," Officer Reed said. Derek didn't. My mouth went dry. "Where's mine?" I asked. Derek's eyes locked onto me, and for a second, the mask slipped again. I saw something underneath that made my skin prickle. Irritation, yes, but also a strange certainty. Like he didn't need my passport anymore because he didn't plan for me to use it. Officer Reed set the Alicia Monroe passport on the desk. "Ms. Carter," he said quietly, "do you have any other identification? Driver's license? Credit card?" "My purse," I said. "It was with me. But when we went to the cabin, I had only the room card. Derek was carrying my clutch." Derek's eyes flicked away. Just for a second. Officer Reed noticed. "Where is her bag?" "At the room," Derek said quickly. "In the room we're assigned." "Which room is that?" Officer Reed asked. Derek opened his mouth and paused. A pause can be a confession if you've been trained to see it. Officer Reed's pen scratched. "Mr. Carter, which cabin?" 128, Derek said. "Obviously." "And the name line reads Alicia Monroe," I said, my voice shaking. Derek's jaw tensed. "Because the system has a glitch." Officer Reed looked at the guard at the desk. "Pull up cabin 10218, now." The guard's fingers moved over the keyboard. The screen shifted. A database window popped up with lines of text and a small cabin layout. "Cabin 10228, the guard read. "Registered to Alicia P. Monroe and Mr. Derek Carter." My pulse banged in my ears. "I told you," I said. "My name is gone." Officer Reed didn't look at me with disbelief. He looked at the data with the careful focus of someone who knows exactly how often people lie to make a system work for them. "Where did you board?" he asked. "Port Miami," I said. "This morning." "What time?" he asked. "About 11, Derek answered before I could. "Why are we doing this?" "She's upset, that's all." Officer Reed raised his eyes. "Sir, stop answering for her." Derek's lips pressed into a thin line. Officer Reed turned to me. "Ms. Carter, did you ever see your name on any ship documents today? Wristband, C-Pass, boarding confirmation?" "Yes," I said. "On the wristband, I think. It flashed so quickly. But Derek held everything. I didn't get to read it." Officer Reed nodded once. "And you said you feel off." I swallowed. "My eyelids are heavy, my legs feel weak. Like I had too much alcohol, but I didn't. I had one glass of champagne." Officer Reed's pen paused. He studied my pupils, the way my focus wavered. Not like a man flirting with panic, like a man taking inventory. "All right," he said. "I'm going to ask medical to come here. And I'm going to check our logs." Derek's head snapped up. "Medical? For what? She's fine." Officer Reed's voice stayed flat. "If she's fine, you have nothing to worry about." Derek's laugh was brittle. "This is harassment." Officer Reed didn't blink. "Sir, sit." There was another silence, one of those small, dangerous ones. Derek sat, but his knee bounced fast beneath the desk, the only sign that his calm was work, not truth. Officer Reed leaned toward the guard. "I want keycard access logs for 10218 for the last 2 hours. I also want a record of any profile changes on that cabin assignment. Who edited, when, and from which terminal?" The guard nodded. "Yes, sir." Derek's eyes flicked up to the screens. A muscle jumped at his jaw. I watched him watch the data. I watched the way a man's face changes when the room starts speaking a language he can't control. While the guard searched, Officer Reed asked me, "Did your husband say anything specific?" "Yes," I said. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. "He said, 'You're not on this ship anymore.' Like he wanted me to vanish." Officer Reed's expression sharpened. "Has he ever threatened you before?" Derek scoffed loudly. "Threatened? Are you serious?" Officer Reed ignored him. "Ms. Carter," I swallowed. "Not outright, but he's been different, controlling, taking my documents, asking about insurance, asking what happens if I go missing." Derek's chair scraped. "I asked because we're on a cruise. It's smart." Officer Reed turned his head just enough to cut him. "Sir." Derek shut his mouth, but his eyes were hot. The guard spoke without looking up. "Sir, I'm seeing something." Officer Reed leaned in. "Say it." "Cabin profile change," the guard said. "A name swap. It happened at 7:12 p.m. It was edited from the concierge terminal on deck 9. My stomach clenched. 7:12 p.m. That was right after dinner, right before Derek insisted on champagne. The guard's fingers moved again, bringing up a grainy hallway view. The camera looked down the corridor outside the concierge desk. Plush carpet, a vase of fake orchids, a private elevator door. The timestamp glowed in the corner. 7:10, 7:11, 7:12. A figure stepped into frame, paused at the desk, leaned over. Even with the grainy quality, I recognized the posture. The way the shoulders held themselves, the way one hand rested on the counter like it owned the space. Derek, my husband, dressed in the same navy blazer he wore now. He looked around, then leaned closer to the concierge. The concierge turned away for a second, maybe to print something, and Derek's hand moved fast, sliding a small card across the counter. A tip. Or a bribe. Then the concierge typed. Then Derek's hand lifted, showing a second passport booklet, navy cover. Alicia Monroe's passport. He'd had it before we even boarded. He'd carried it like a tool. The air left my lungs. Officer Reed paused the video. "That's you," he said to Derek, not a question. Derek stared at the screen like it was an insult. "That could be anyone," he said, but his voice had lost its smoothness. Officer Reed's eyes didn't move. "Sir, you are currently holding your wife's passport?" Derek's lips parted. He didn't speak. Officer Reed's voice went colder. "Sir!" Derek's shoulders rose and fell once. "I don't know what you think you're seeing." I leaned forward, shaking. "You changed my name," I whispered. "You changed me into her." Derek's eyes snapped to mine, and something dark flashed there. Annoyance, yes, but also a warning. Don't. I looked away first, because the drug made my vision wobble, and I couldn't risk the world spinning. But I didn't back down. Officer Reed stood up. "Mr. Carter, you're going to remain here while I contact my supervisor. Ms. Carter, you are staying with us." Derek stood too, fast. "No! This is insane. You can't keep us here." Officer Reed stepped into his path. "Sir, if you leave, I will consider that non-compliance during a security investigation." Derek's smile returned like a weapon. "A security investigation? For what? A marital argument and a computer glitch?" Officer Reed's gaze stayed steady. "For potential identity fraud on board a vessel." The words landed heavy. "Identity swap on a cruise. Passenger manifest switched. Cabin keycard tampering." All the phrases that sounded like clickbait headlines now sounded like charges. Derek's knee bounced again. Officer Reed spoke into his radio. "Supervisor to security office. Possible identity tampering and passenger safety concern. Also request medical." The radio crackled. "Copy?" I sat back and tried to keep my breathing even. My hands felt damp. Sweat prickled at my scalp. I wanted to vomit. I wanted to sleep. I wanted to scream. Instead, I watched Derek. He kept his face calm, but his eyes scanned the room like exits were written into the walls. He was calculating a way to turn this around. A man doesn't build a plan like this without backup. Officer Reed asked the guard. Pull up Mr. Carter's onboard account activity. Purchases, key card usage, any recent requests for duplicate C-passes. The guard nodded. Derek's head turned sharply. You can't. Sir, Officer Reed said, voice clipped. You are on my ship. You will comply. My ship. Not your vacation, not your stage. The possessive wasn't arrogance, it was responsibility. The guard's screen filled with transactions. Champagne at the lounge, 2 bottles of water, a purchase at the gift shop. Then a line item I recognized from the corner of my mind. Medical, consult. Time, 7:35 p.m. I looked at Derek. You went to medical? I asked. Derek's expression didn't change. I picked up motion sickness bands, he said quickly. Why would you need motion sickness bands? I whispered. You don't get seasick. He shrugged. I thought you might. Officer Reed leaned in. What did you pick up from medical, sir? Derek's eyes narrowed. Over-the-counter stuff. Officer Reed's jaw tightened. I'm going to ask medical for your visit record. Derek's laugh was sharp. Go ahead. But his hands curled into fists at his sides. A knock came at the door. A woman in a white medical uniform entered, pushing a small cart. She had kind eyes and the professional calm of someone who'd seen too many drunk tourists to be impressed by anyone's story. Medical, she said. Who needs assessment? Officer Reed nodded toward me. This guest reports possible drugging. She's experiencing dizziness and heaviness. The nurse stepped closer. Ma'am, what's your name? Imani Carter, I said. The nurse glanced at a tablet on her cart. Our system shows Alicia Monroe, she said, confused. My throat tightened again. That's not my name, I said. That's the name they switched me to. The nurse's eyes flicked up, just a flash of alarm. Then she smoothed it down. Okay, she said, tone steady. Let's focus on your symptoms. Any difficulty breathing? Chest pain? No, I said. Just heavy, slow, like my body isn't mine. The nurse checked my pulse with a fingertip, then took my blood pressure. The cuff tightened around my arm until it felt like a grip. Her eyes narrowed at the reading. What is it? I asked. It's elevated, she said carefully. Not dangerous right now, but higher than I'd expect for 1 glass of champagne. Derek crossed his arms. She's anxious, he said. That's why. The nurse looked at him, once, cool, and continued. When did you last eat? Tonight. At dinner, I said. About 2 hours ago. And how much alcohol? She asked. 1 glass, I said. The nurse asked, Did you take any medications? Any sleep aids? No, Officer Reed said. Her husband insists she's confused. She insists her identity was altered on board. The nurse's mouth tightened. We can do a basic screening, she said, but on-board resources are limited. Do it, Officer Reed said. Derek's voice rose a notch. This is turning into a circus. Officer Reed's eyes didn't move. That's because you're performing. Derek's face flushed. Excuse me? Officer Reed leaned closer, voice low, dangerous. Sit down, sir. Derek sat again. The nurse took a small swab and a tiny vial kit from her cart. I'm going to take a sample, she said. I nodded. My fingers trembled. The ship's hum seemed louder now, like the walls had ears. While the nurse worked, Officer Reed asked me quietly, Do you feel safe with your husband? The question made my chest ache. No, I said, and the simplicity of it felt like grief. Derek's head snapped up. Imani! Officer Reed cut him off. Sir, no! Derek glared. This is a misunderstanding. I looked at him and felt something inside me crack cleanly. 12 years of excuses split open like thin ice. I don't misunderstand you, I said. I finally understand you. The nurse finished and labeled the sample. Her eyes flicked to the passport on the desk, Alicia Monroe, and then to me. She didn't comment, but her expression shifted toward caution. Officer Reed asked the guard, "Key card logs?" The guard spoke, uneasy. "Sir, there are multiple reissues. Ms. Carter's C-Pass was reissued at 7:14 p.m., then again at 7:18 p.m. The earlier one was voided." My breath caught. "He replaced my card," I whispered. Officer Reed nodded once. "And the voided card?" The guard hesitated. "It was deactivated and flagged as lost." Lost. Another word that could become a story. Officer Reed asked, "Any use of admin credentials?" The guard scrolled. "Yes, sir. Profile edits require a supervisor login. It was logged under concierge supervisor ID, K. Vaughn." A cold pulse ran through my body. "Who is K. Vaughn?" I asked. Derek's eyes flicked, fast, toward the door, as if he'd just remembered something he needed to control. Officer Reed's expression hardened. "Keisha Vaughn," he said, reading from the screen. "Concierge supervisor. A bribe. A name. An accomplice." Officer Reed spoke into his radio again. "I need concierge supervisor Keisha Vaughn located and escorted to security." The radio crackled. "Copy." Derek leaned back, too casual. "Bring whoever you want. This is still nothing." But his knee bounced so fast it shook the desk. I stared at the screens behind him. The hallway camera outside concierge kept replaying in my mind. Derek sliding that card like a secret handshake. This wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a husband plots on cruise story, and I was the missing wife on vacation he wanted the world to pity him for. Officer Reed's supervisor arrived. An older woman with silver hair pulled into a tight twist, and a posture that said she'd broken fights between drunk millionaires without spilling her coffee. "Report," she said. Officer Reed gave it clean and fast. Identity tampering, name swap, passport mismatch, possible drugging, concierge supervisor login used. The supervisor's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Carter," she said, "do you understand that altering a passenger manifest is a serious violation?" Derek smiled thinly. "I understand that my wife is overreacting." The supervisor looked at me. "Ma'am, do you feel able to walk?" I nodded, though my legs felt wrong. She said, "We will relocate you to a secure cabin in the crew-adjacent guest block until we clarify this. Mr. Carter will remain under observation." Derek surged to his feet. "You're separating us? She's my wife." The supervisor's voice was ice. "You do not get to use marriage as a hall pass for suspected fraud and endangerment." Endangerment. The word settled over my skin like a blanket. Derek's eyes burned. "Imani," he said low. "Tell them to stop." I stared at him. "Give me my passport," I said. He laughed, and it was ugly. "Which one?" The supervisor snapped her fingers. Two guards moved to Derek's sides. "Sit," she ordered. Derek sat. Officer Reed looked at me. "Ms. Carter," he said, "I'm going to walk you to a safe cabin. Keep your hands visible. If you feel faint, tell me." I stood slowly. The room swayed. Officer Reed's hand hovered near my elbow without touching, respectful. As we left the security office, the corridor light made my vision blur. The ship's hum grew louder, like it was inside my bones. Derek's voice followed us, sharp and loud now. "This is insane! She's lying! She's trying to ruin me!" I didn't turn around. I kept walking because I knew something now. If I turned around, my old self would beg. And begging was exactly what Derek wanted. Officer Reed led me through a service hallway and up a short stairwell that smelled like laundry detergent and sea air. We emerged onto a quieter deck with fewer passengers, a hallway lined with identical doors and muted carpet. "This is an officer-controlled cabin area," he said. "It's used for guest disputes. You'll be safe here." Safe. The word sounded strange in my mouth. On a ship, safe is relative. We stopped at a door. Officer Reed scanned his card. Beep. Green. The lock clicked open like permission. Inside, the cabin was simple. Smaller than ours, no balcony, but clean. A bed, a desk, a small bathroom. The air smelled like bleach and fresh towels. Officer Reed said, "Stay here. Do not open the door unless it's me or my supervisor. Understood?" "Understood," I said. He hesitated, then asked quietly, "Do you have anyone on shore you want notified?" "My best friend," I said. "Detective Tasha Brooks in Atlanta." Officer Reed nodded. "If you can give me the number, I can place a call through ship communication." My throat tightened. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have anything. "I don't have it memorized," I admitted, shame burning. Officer Reed's eyes softened for a fraction. "Okay," he said. "We'll work around that." He left, and the lock clicked behind him. I stood in the middle of the cabin and listened to the silence. No laughter, no music, just the low, mechanical heartbeat of the ship and my own breath scraping in and out. My name. I thought of my name like it was a piece of paper floating away from me in black water. Imani Carter. In the mirror over the desk, my face looked pale under the cabin lights. My eyes seemed too big, my mouth too dry. I sat on the bed and pressed my palms to my thighs until the room stopped tilting. Then I heard a knock. Soft. 2 taps. My heart jumped. I didn't move. The knock came again. 3 taps. A woman's voice, low. "Ms. Carter?" I swallowed. "Who is it?" "Keisha," the voice said. "Concierge?" My stomach dropped. I stood, slow, and moved to the door without opening it. "What do you want?" I asked through the wood. "I'm not here to hurt you," Keisha said quickly. "I'm here because I think you're in danger." Danger! The word tasted real. I pressed my forehead to the door. "You changed my name," I whispered. "You did it." A pause. Then Keisha said, "I did what I was told, and I shouldn't have. But listen to me. Your husband didn't just want a room change. He wanted you to stop existing on this ship." My knees weakened. I leaned against the wall. Keisha continued, voice urgent. "He came to me with paperwork. Passport. A story about a surprise. He said you wanted a new name for a vow renewal. He said you were an influencer. He said—" "Stop," I whispered. "You believed him?" "I didn't just believe him," she said, and her voice cracked. "I took a tip. I took cash. And then I watched him go to the bar and tell the bartender to make it strong. And I realized it wasn't a joke." I closed my eyes. My stomach rolled. Keisha said, "He asked me how long security footage stays in the system. He asked me which cameras get maintenance gaps. He asked me where guests get taken when they're disruptive." My blood went colder with each sentence. "You're saying he planned a cruise ship disappearance," I said. Keisha exhaled. "Yes." I tightened my grip on the doorknob, but didn't turn it. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw your face," she whispered. "When the system didn't recognize you, that wasn't a prank. That was erasing. And I have a daughter your age, and I kept thinking, what if that was her?" My throat burned. Keisha said, "Officer Reed sent for me. I'm going there. But before I go, I need you to know, your husband is not acting alone." The sentence hit like a wave. "Who?" I asked. Keisha lowered her voice further. "There's a man Derek met on board this afternoon. I saw them in the cigar lounge. The man had a crew access badge. Maintenance. But he wasn't maintenance. He had the posture of security." Derek handed him an envelope. I clenched my jaw. "An envelope of what?" Keisha swallowed. "Cash." I pictured a second set of hands in this plan, a second set of eyes, a second story ready to be told if mine fought back. Keisha said, "He's going to try to get you labeled as a mental health case. Once medical puts that note in the system, you're done. They'll isolate you. They'll document you as confused. Then he can say you wandered. A missing wife on vacation can be blamed on confusion if the paperwork says so." I forced my voice steady. "Do you have proof?" Keisha hesitated. I have the concierge terminal logs. I printed the change request. I kept it because something felt off after he left." My chest tightened. You kept it? I did, she said. It's in my locker. I can get it to Officer Reed. Do it, I said. Please? Keisha exhaled shakily. I will. A radio crackled faintly behind her door, muffled. Crew voices. Steps moving. Keisha whispered, You can't let him get near you again, not even to talk. I stared at the door. He's my husband, I said, and the words tasted like poison. Keisha said, No, he's your threat. Then her footsteps retreated, fast, and the hallway went silent again. I sank back onto the bed, heart pounding. My fingers tingled. My eyes burned. I tried to think like a strategist, like the woman who built a company by reading people and telling stories before they told them. What did Derek want? He wanted my assets, my life insurance, my accounts, the narrative. He wanted to stand in front of my family and the world and say, She disappeared on our anniversary cruise, and have the paperwork agree with him. A maritime investigation can take months. Oceans swallow evidence. And a passenger manifest switched? A name swapped? That is the kind of bureaucratic fog a predator hides inside. I pressed my palms to my temples, forcing the dizziness down. I needed time. I needed allies. I needed my name back in the system before he could finalize the lie. The door clicked open, one quick movement, and my body jolted. Officer Reed stepped in, then immediately locked it behind him. His expression was tight, focused. Ms. Carter, he said. Keisha Vaughn is in custody for questioning. She's cooperating. My breath left in a shaky exhale. She came here, I said. She told me. I know, he interrupted gently. She asked to speak to you, but I refused. She left you a message through the door, correct? I nodded. She said Derek isn't alone. Officer Reed's jaw clenched. We're checking crew rosters and access logs. He looked at me carefully. How are you feeling? Like my body's half a beat behind my mind, I said. Like someone turned down my controls. Officer Reed nodded, as if that description fit something he'd seen before. Medical's preliminary test shows sedative exposure, he said. We can't fully confirm on board, but it's consistent with tampering. A drugged drink on cruise. Confirmed enough to matter. Officer Reed continued. We have your original boarding record. You boarded as Imani Carter. The system was altered after dinner. We have video of Derek at the concierge terminal. My stomach clenched, but relief threaded through it too. Evidence. Not just my word. Officer Reed said, We've also secured the bartender. He remembers Derek requesting champagne for you specifically. Of course he did, I whispered. Officer Reed took a breath. Here's what's happening next. We are going to keep you in this cabin under guard. Derek is being held in a separate security staff cabin. He's demanding to see you. He's saying you're ill and he needs to comfort you. I laughed once, short and bitter. Comfort! Officer Reed's gaze sharpened. He will not be allowed near you. Thank you, I said, and my voice cracked on the second syllable. Officer Reed hesitated. Ms. Carter, he said quietly, I need you to answer something honestly. Is there any chance your husband has access to your financial accounts on board? Any login stored? Any device? My mind flicked to the last 6 months. Derek hovering behind my shoulder when I opened my laptop. Derek offering to help with bookkeeping. Derek talking about setting up a shared password manager. I don't know, I admitted. He might. He's had my phone sometimes. Officer Reed's expression tightened. We will treat this as potential financial fraud by spouse. We will also notify port authorities at the next docking. When do we dock? I asked. Tomorrow afternoon, he said. Nassau. My stomach twisted. Nassau sounded like a postcard. Now it sounded like a deadline. Officer Reed continued. Derek has already requested that you be evaluated by medical for acute confusion. I stared at him. He's trying to label me, I whispered. Officer Reed nodded. Yes. My fingers curled into fists. Then we need to label him first, I said. and my own voice surprised me with its steadiness. "We need to trap him." Officer Reed studied me. "What do you mean?" I took a breath. "If he wants a story, we give him one he can't resist. He's planning to make me disappear. That means he needs me isolated, undocumented, unclaimed. He needs the ship's paperwork to say I wandered off, drunk and confused." Officer Reed's eyes narrowed, listening. I continued. "So we don't just block him. We make him show his hand. We make him push too hard. We record it. We make the narrative catch him." Officer Reed was silent for a beat. Then he said, "That's risky." "Living is risky," I said. "Erasure is worse." Officer Reed's expression shifted. Respect, maybe, or recognition. "We can discuss strategy," he said, "but we will not put you in direct danger." I swallowed. "Then we build a controlled bait." Officer Reed's radio crackled. He listened, then said, "One more thing. We searched Derek. He had 2 CPAS cards. 2, of course. One for me, one for Alicia." Officer Reed said, "We also recovered your phone." My breath caught. "Where?" "On him," Officer Reed said. "He had it powered off." My hands trembled. "Can I have it?" He shook his head slightly. "Not yet. It's evidence, but I can let you access numbers under supervision. Do you remember your friend's name?" "Tasha Brooks," I said. "Detective." Officer Reed nodded. "We will contact her from ship communications, and we will notify your family once we have shore coordination." Relief hit so hard it made me dizzy. Officer Reed stood. "Rest," he said. "Hydrate. If you feel faint, press the emergency button. There's a guard outside." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Ms. Carter," he said quietly, "I'm sorry." "For what?" I whispered. "For the thing people don't understand about ships," he said. "Out there, rules feel soft. People treat vacation like it doesn't count. Predators love that." I looked at him. "I'm not going to be soft," I said. Officer Reed nodded once. "Good." He left, and the lock clicked again. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. The ship rocked gently, a cradle that didn't care who it held. I closed my eyes for a second, just a second, and let my mind drift, not into sleep, but into memory. 12 years ago, Derek and I were young enough to believe love could fix everything. We stood in a courthouse, laughing, signing papers with cheap pens. He kissed my forehead and said, "I'll always take care of you." I'd thought it meant protection. Now I understood it meant control. My eyes snapped open at a new sound, a vibration, a buzz against the floor. My phone. The guard outside must have bumped it, or Officer Reed must have left it. I sat up fast, heart pounding, and scanned the room. On the desk, next to the emergency button, my phone lay face down, screen lighting with a notification. Unknown caller. I stared at it like it was a snake. The screen buzzed again. Unknown caller. Then, in smaller text, the ship's Wi-Fi name glowed on the corner. The phone had signal. My hand hovered, trembling. I knew without knowing that Derek was trying to reach me. If he could hear my voice, he could tune his plan. If he could get me to speak on record, he could twist it. But there was another thought, colder. What if this wasn't Derek? What if it was the other man Keisha mentioned, the one with a crew badge and an envelope? My mouth went dry. The phone buzzed again. Unknown caller. I didn't answer. I flipped it over and slid it into the drawer, shutting it like a coffin. Outside, the ship's intercom chimed again, cheerful and bright. "Guests, don't miss tonight's midnight buffet. A sweet ending to a perfect day at sea." Perfect day. I closed my eyes and whispered my own name into the dark, like a prayer. "Imani Carter," I said. "Imani Carter. Imani Carter." Because if I stopped saying it, I could feel the ship trying to replace it. The ship didn't sleep. It just lowered the lights and kept the music moving, like a place that makes money by pretending the night is harmless. I must have drifted for minutes, long enough for my body to sag and my mind to replay Derek's whisper until it sounded like an announcement. "You're not on this ship anymore." 2 soft taps snapped me awake. "Ms. Carter!" Officer Reed said through the door. It's me. I opened it a crack. He slipped inside and locked it again, fast and practiced. Sorry, he said. I didn't want to startle you. You didn't, I said, and felt the lie tremble in my throat. He set a paper cup of water on the desk with a packet beside it. Electrolytes. Medical wants you flushing whatever you were given. Do we know what it was? I asked. Not precisely, he said, but the symptoms match a sedative. Enough to slow you down, blur your words, make you look drunk without knocking you out. That way, if you argue, you sound confused. The word landed like a hand on my mouth. Confused is the label you can't argue with once it's typed into a report. I forced a sip of water. He's building a cruise ship disappearance, I said quietly. A missing wife on vacation he can cry about. Officer Reed's eyes didn't soften. Yes. What happens now? My voice came out hoarse. We lock the evidence, he said. We preserve cruise security footage, the keycard logs, and the record showing the passenger manifest switched after embarkation. Keisha Vaughn gave us a printed change request and admitted he paid her. She also repeated what she told you. Derek met a man with a crew badge. We're trying to identify him. My stomach tightened. So Derek isn't alone. Not if what she says is true, Reed answered. And that's why we're moving carefully. I stared at the plain bed, the plain walls, the way this cabin looked like safety but felt like hiding. He keeps asking to see me? Reed nodded. He wants a marital conversation. He's also pushing medical to log you as acutely confused. Of course he was. Paperwork first, then the story. I swallowed. You said earlier you'd consider a controlled statement. I want to do it. I want him recorded trying to label me. Reed studied me for a beat, weighing risk. He can't touch you. He won't be alone with you. 2 guards, body cams, 1 fixed camera. You sit near the door. I sit beside you. He sits across the table. The moment he escalates, it ends. My hands shook, but I made my voice steady. Now, before he changes tactics. Reed nodded one is. All right, now. The word hit like a bell. We moved through back corridors, where the air smelled like laundry heat and disinfectant, where the ship's glamour peeled away and the metal bones showed. The security office door opened with a scan and a green beep. Inside, the interview room looked like every room built for truth. Bare walls, a table, a camera mounted high with a red light that said, recording. Reed pointed to a chair near the door. Here. I sat with my hands visible on the table, palms down, like I was anchoring myself to my own body. A minute later, they brought Derek in. He walked like he owned the ship. Navy blazer crisp, hair perfect. But his eyes were too bright, too quick, searching for control like it was oxygen. When he saw me, his face shifted into relief husband. Imani, he said, voice thick. Thank God. Are you okay? I didn't answer. Reed gestured. Sit, Mr. Carter. Derek sat and angled toward me, as if posture could pull me back into compliance. This has gotten ridiculous, he said, then turned his soft concern on me again. Baby, you had too much champagne. You panicked. The name thing, guest services makes mistakes. Reed's voice stayed flat. We have video of you at the concierge terminal during the time cabin 10218's profile was edited. Derek's smile flickered. Video can be misread. We also have a passport in the name of Alicia Monroe, Reed added, which you produced when asked for your wife's identification. Derek leaned back, annoyed. That passport isn't mine. It was in your pocket, Reed said. Derek turned to me with that familiar, private tone meant to make me feel small. Imani, tell them. We mixed documents. You know how it gets on vacation. I held his gaze. Where is my passport? I asked. His smile held, but the muscles around it tightened. You're safe, he said softly. That's what matters. Answer, Reed said. I don't have it, Derek replied. I leaned in just an inch. Then whose passport did you hand the concierge at 7:12? I asked. Because the camera shows you presenting a booklet. Derek's eyes narrowed. Then he snapped, "They're feeding you lines," and caught himself too late. He forced the smile back. "Baby, you're confused. Let's go back to the room and sleep." "Our room?" I said. "Or Alicia Monroe's room?" His jaw clenched. "Stop saying that name." "I'm not the one who used it," I said. "You did." Reed slid a tablet across the table. The log glowed with timestamps. Cabin 10218 profile updated. Imani Carter, Alicia P. Monroe. Request, D. Carter, user, K. Valmon. Derek barely glanced at it. Fabricated. Concierge supervisor is cooperating, Reed said. She stated you offered cash to process the change and asked how long cruise security footage is stored. Derek's eyes flashed. She's lying to protect herself. And why would she need protecting? I asked quietly. Derek looked at the camera in the corner, then back to me. Because people love blaming the husband, he said too quickly. Reed's pen scratched. Mr. Carter, you requested medical evaluate Miss Carter for confusion. Derek shrugged. Because she's not acting like herself. Because you drugged my drink on the cruise, I said, and the words came out clean. Because you wanted me to sound intoxicated. Derek's smile broke. You're accusing me of poisoning you? Do you hear yourself? Reed leaned forward. Medical's preliminary screen indicates sedative exposure. Derek laughed, sharp and thin. From what? Motion bans? Anxiety? People get dizzy at sea. I watched him improvise. He was good, but not perfect. He kept circling the same theme. Not danger, instability. You want to know what I hear? I asked softly. I hear you talking about my stability instead of my safety. That's not love. That's management. His face reddened. You always do this. Turn everything into a business pitch. Because you treat me like an acquisition, I said. Silence dropped hard. Derek's nostrils flared. You don't understand what you're risking, he muttered. Reed's eyes narrowed. What is she risking, Mr. Carter? Derek froze. His mouth opened, closed. Then the smile returned, late and forced. Nothing, he said. She's risking nothing. She's just tired. I felt my pulse slow, cold. He'd almost said it, almost revealed the leverage. So I pressed gently, like you press on a bruise to see where it hurts. Why were you so interested in the passenger manifest? I asked. Why did you ask what happens when a guest is deemed disruptive? Derek's gaze snapped to mine. The husband mask slid, and in its place was the man who made plans. Because I'm not stupid, he said quietly. Because people disappear on ships and nobody asks the right questions. My skin prickled. Reed's voice sharpened. Are you saying you expected your wife to disappear? Derek blinked fast. He heard himself too late. No, he said, but it was weak. I'm saying the ship is unsafe. You were making it unsafe, I whispered. For me. Derek leaned forward, voice dropping to a hiss meant only for me. Imani, stop. You're making me do this the hard way. Reed's chair scraped. Speak up, sir. What does the hard way mean? Derek jerked back, realizing the trap. Nothing, he snapped. But his eyes burned into mine, and the threat sat there anyway. Visible, recorded, undeniable. Reed nodded once, like a door closing. That's enough for tonight. The guard stepped in. Derek surged to his feet. No, she's my wife. Reed's voice turned iron. Not your property. As the guards took his arms, Derek twisted, eyes wild now. This isn't over, he said, and the words shook with something that sounded like panic wearing anger as a jacket. Then the door shut behind him. My legs went weak. I gripped the table edge until the room stopped swimming. Reed tapped the camera light. It's recorded, he said. Motive, coercion, threats, and you got him acknowledging disappearances on ships. I didn't get my passport, I whispered. Not yet, he said. But we're close. He walked me back to the secure cabin. A guard took post outside. Inside, I sat on the bed and stared at the blank wall, trying to keep my mind from running down every dark hallway Derek had built. A few minutes later, Reed returned with his supervisor and Keisha Vaughn. Keisha looked smaller now, makeup smudged, hands shaking as she held a folder against her chest. She couldn't meet my eyes at first. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't have strength for comfort. "Do you have the paperwork?" I asked. She nodded quickly and opened the folder. "Printed change request," she said. It shows Derek asked for a name swap and presented the Alicia Monroe passport as supporting ID. He told me it was for a vow renewal surprise. I believed him. Then I took the cash. And then I realized it wasn't a joke. The supervisor's gaze was hard. "Tell her about the luggage hold." Keisha flinched, then forced the words out. "He asked how to get something moved from the luggage hold without triggering attention. He asked which crew could access it after midnight. I told him maintenance sometimes goes in. I shouldn't have." My stomach turned. "My passport," I whispered. Keisha nodded, tears spilling. "He said he didn't want you tracking him once you got mixed up. He said he'd handle your documents so you couldn't prove anything at guest services." Reed spoke into his radio. "Lockdown luggage hold. No entry without supervisor escort and recording." The radio crackled. "Copy." The supervisor addressed me, voice brisk but steady. "Ms. Carter, we're restoring your identity in the ship system tonight. Your name will be corrected on the manifest, your C-Pass reissued, and an official log will show when the record was altered and when it was repaired. That way, when we dock, authorities get a clean paper trail." A paper trail. Keisha wiped her face. "I'll testify," she said, voice cracking. "I'll show where he paid me. I'll show the terminal. I'll show everything." I looked at her. My anger didn't vanish, but it sharpened into purpose. "Do it," I said, "because you helped him try to erase me." Keisha nodded, sobbing silently. They left me with a guard at the door and my own heartbeat for company. Hours passed in fragments. Water, nausea, distant laughter, the low churn of engines. Somewhere after midnight, footsteps stopped outside my door. The lock chirped green. Officer Reed entered, eyes bright with exhaustion. "We found it," he said. I sat up, my vision swayed. "My passport?" He nodded and held up a clear evidence sleeve. Inside was my Navy booklet, my photo staring back at me. Me, undeniable, not a Monroe, not a ghost. "In the luggage hold," he said, wrapped inside a duty-free bag and tucked behind a stack of excursion brochures. Whoever hid it thought no one would look there. We also found a borrowed crew badge taped under a shelf. Port authorities will want that. Relief hit so hard my hands shook. I pressed a palm to my mouth to keep from crying. Reed's voice softened. "It stays sealed as evidence until Nassau. But your identity is restored in the onboard system. The passenger manifest has been corrected with a notation that it was fraudulently altered. Your new C-Pass is printing now under your legal name." He paused at the door. "Derek asked to see you again," he added. "He says he wants to apologize." I let out a shaky laugh. "He wants to recalibrate the lie." Reed nodded. "He won't get the chance." I stared at my passport behind plastic, but my name was no longer floating away from me. "Tomorrow we dock," I whispered. "Yes," Reed said. "Tomorrow, this stops being a ship problem and becomes a case. And he won't be able to charm his way through a real investigation." He left, and the lock clicked. I lay back and stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned. Then I whispered my name into the dark, not as a prayer this time, but as a promise. "Imani Carter," I said. "I'm still here." By the time the ship slid into Nassau, the ocean looked innocent again, blue and bright, sparkling like it had never held secrets. That's the thing about water, it doesn't keep fingerprints. I stood in the secure corridor in a plain sweater the ship's medical team had brought me, my reissued C-Pass card warm from the printer in Officer Reed's hand. It had my real name on it again, Imani Carter. Seeing those letters felt like inhaling after being held underwater. Port authorities are waiting, Reed said quietly. We do this clean. You don't speak to him. You don't react to him. Let the evidence talk. I nodded, even though my heart was trying to climb out of my throat. Down the service elevator, the ship's glamour returned. Sun-drenched atrium, tourists in linen, the smell of sunscreen and sugar. People laughed with the careless joy of vacationers who believed danger lived somewhere else. No one looked at me twice, and that hurt in a strange way, because it meant I could have vanished in plain sight. At the gangway, a cluster of uniforms waited. Bahamian police, a ship liaison, and 2 U.S. federal agents who looked like they had slept in their clothes. The taller agent introduced himself without ceremony and accepted a folder from Reed. Printed logs, video stills, signed statements, the chain of custody for my passport sealed in plastic. Passenger manifest switched. Cabin keycard tampering. Drugged drink on cruise. The case had keywords now, but it also had weight. Then Derek appeared. They brought him down a different corridor, flanked by guards. He wore the same navy blazer, but it didn't look expensive anymore. It looked like a costume he couldn't return. His face searched the crowd, fast, until his eyes found mine. For a split second, he forgot to perform. His mouth opened slightly, like he'd seen a ghost. Then the mask snapped on. "Imani!" he cried, voice loud enough to draw heads. "Thank God. Baby, tell them the truth. Tell them you were confused. I've been terrified." The federal agent didn't blink. "Mr. Carter, remain silent." Derek pushed forward anyway, straining against the guards. "She's my wife. She's sick. She doesn't know what she's saying." Officer Reed stepped in, steady as a wall. "You don't get to diagnose her now," he said. "You tried to erase her." A few passengers slowed, curiosity blooming. Cameras rose, phones held like little mirrors. Derek saw the attention and turned it into fuel. "This is a misunderstanding," he pleaded, eyes shining. "We came on a vacation. She had too much to drink. She panicked. And now you're ruining my life." I didn't answer. I kept my face still like Reed told me. But inside, something new held me up. Cold, clean certainty. The taller agent opened the folder and spoke like he was reading weather. "Mr. Carter, we have video of you bribing a concierge supervisor to alter cabin records. We have the keycard access logs. We have the printed change request. We have your possession of a passport under the name Alicia Monroe, and your wife's passport hidden in the luggage hold. We also have medical's preliminary report, consistent with sedative exposure after you purchased champagne designated for Miss Carter." Derek's lips parted. The words didn't fit his story. He tried to laugh, but it cracked. That's not." "Turn around," the agent said. Derek's eyes snapped to me again, sharp and furious now that the charm had failed. "You think you've won?" He hissed through his teeth, too low for the crowd, loud enough for me. "You don't know what I'm tied to." There it was, the last truth slipping out when lies ran out of oxygen. I leaned in just enough to meet his gaze. My voice stayed calm, almost gentle. "And you don't know what I'm capable of when I'm still here." Derek flinched like I'd slapped him, because he'd planned for me to be gone. The cuffs clicked, metal on skin, final. As they led him down the gangway, he twisted once, trying for one last headline. "Imani, please! I love you!" I didn't move. I didn't blink. Love doesn't require a woman to disappear so a man can breathe. When Derek was gone, the world didn't instantly become soft. My hands still shook. My stomach still remembered fear. But my name was mine, and my body was mine, and the paperwork finally matched the truth. Officer Reed walked me back to the quiet corridor and handed me a small envelope. Inside was my phone, powered on, screen glowing with missed calls and messages. My sister, my best friend, my office manager. The whole life Derek tried to silence. "You can call them now," Reed said. "You're not a ghost." I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Then I whispered, "Thank you," and meant it like a vow. If you're still here with me, let me leave you with this. On a cruise ship, it's not always the ocean that's dangerous. Sometimes it's the paperwork. Sometimes it's the smiling man beside you who knows exactly how to make you look unstable while he makes you disappear. So keep copies. Keep control of your ID. Listen to the small alarms inside your chest. And if someone ever tries to rewrite your reality, say your name out loud. Say it until the world has no choice but to recognize you. If this story hit you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Tap like to support these real-life twists. And in the comments, tell me what city you're watching from and what time it is. I want to see how far this story traveled. And don't go yet. There are 2 more stories on the end screen waiting for you.